welcome to Episodes Academy. I'm your host for today. So, what I actually want to explain is just an entry model that I have studied over time and it worked very well. Alright, so let's start. We all see that this is a downtrend. Market was in a downtrend, the market was bearish here basically. Then, coach, reversal, shift, whatever you have to call it. Now, let's pick our entry. Now, for this expansion, you can see, and the hierarchy of POI, whenever an expansion happens, markets either use a breaker block or mitigation block. So we are not looking into order block or whatever, but that's how to pick the order block or whichever one you choose to trade. Also has to do with this strategy. It needs to be all right. Now let me say little about the model. There's an entry model we call QMR, Quasimodo reversal or Quasimodo continuation. QMR. But it is basically a type of entry that's common maybe in the outside world. Yeah, QMR. So it is related to something like this. And for this QMR, it is something like this, whereby you have basically what you want to look structure or trade. So if you have stuff like this, you want to see markets take out a lead when market trade below where it's supposed to trade. Trade above where it's supposed to trade. Basically you expect this trend to just continue as a trend line, and this one should follow a trend line like this. Then in our trade below it, basically eating these people's English they call it. So when you see something like this, then you see what validates this is when you see a break of structure. This is where you take notes. What validates this strip of liquidity is when it breaks structure for market to reach your engagement or liquidity, whichever one you call it, trade. Now let's explain it. How to pick your entry in this regard is this candle that was swept. You draw your rectangle there, that will be your entry. Most times I use the body of the candle or the wick, depends. By experience, you know which one to use. So I can't really say both works, and at times you might miss entry if you use body or if you use wick. So it is just by experience, that's how you know which one to go for scenario. So this is the chart work of the setup of the model. Let me be sure I'm recording. Okay, very good. So now let's go into it. All right. So when we see this expansion, I already know we have to find a breaker block that market will obey. Yeah. So this, just like what I explained, you can see what is breaker block. All right. For those that don't understand what a breaker block is a failed order block, another block that failed. That's what we call a breaker block. Now let's say order block did hold. Let's say this, we'll be looking to short the market from here as we have engagement close to it and another block. This is how you mark it out. This is what market sweeps. You can see it swept this eyes, then still it looks like. But market filled it, trade above it without respecting it. Yeah. So that's what gives that number one signal. So immediately you see this, you just know, okay, this is what market will use. Yeah. Then that was the reason I marked out this, my POI, which is point of interest. All right. So see, but I did not take this entry. I think I wasn't there. So after seeing this, I already know, okay, market is ready for me. And just the same entry I used there is the same thing I keep using, means I repeat. Now, this low was swept by this, right? It was swept by this. They break structure to the upside. It broke structure to the upside. We can even, if you want a more valid BOS, we can say this. Break structure to the upside, yeah. So what do? We just mark out, I put the candle that was engulfed or that was swept, yeah, not engulfed, that was swept, and that's the trend line you see me draw here. So let me erase everything here, then do it afresh. All right, you understood to the extent of this POI I have here. Okay, so market has traded to the POI I marked, which is the breaker block from previous explanation. So immediately you saw that, you just know market has come into your POI and you are ready to buy. For those that may be asking, why didn't I use order block or whatever? It is basically in the hierarchy of POIs. That is, these POIs that we have, we have breaker block, mitigation block, order block, FVG, liquidity, and so on and so forth. There are hierarchy to these things. Some fail while some work. Breaker block and mitigation block, it tends to work when some things happen. Yeah, those ones are from a student. Right. So now let's get back here. QMR, just like I explained, the candle or the structure that was swept is what I draw it. So you just draw your trend line or your anything you use to mark your POI at the bottom. Look how I draw it. At the bottom of the candle, you can see this one swept this liquidity. Remember when I was explaining the model from the beginning, I said it needs to sweep it, then break structure. That's what validates it. Yeah, it needs to break structure. So, and we've seen a break of structure here. And sweep of liquidity is just the genesis of the QMR. So you map it out to future, and you just set your entry. If you won't be present, you just set your entry, and using the you want to learn from here. You can see how smart the trade just tap into it and go. Of course, there is engagement, there is FVG. You can see all those things also here. So in this regard, I just pull my stop loss at the bottom of this. This would have been your order block. Normally, yeah, I put my stop loss there. But if you want to play it more safe than I did, you can put your stop loss there. Yeah, based on what I've studied, so I just know what will happen. I put my stop loss there, and my TP this giving up to 1:9 RR, which is very, very sweet. You can see it wasn't even stressful. So this happened, then it happened again and again. It happened again. All right. So let me delete this so it will be clearer. After this structure was formed, same thing happened. You can see this is a low. Let me clear this. All right, this is a low that was swept, which is your previous engagement that was swept. You can see that. So it was swept, then structure was broken again. Still the same concepts. Structure was broken again, and break of structure is what validates whatever I want to do. So what do I mark out? I just mark out the same thing, which is body of the candle. Remember, I'm not using wick here. I'm using body, and it has risen. Body of the candle that was engulfed, that was swept rather. You can see. So there is everything. You can see. Okay, this one is now more clearer. You can see there is nothing like other block here. I'm not using any other block. No, even you might say this one has been, everything has been mitigated, for SMC trader, but there is still always more to learn. And you can see market trade into it, then boom, this is giving up to 1:7. Now, if as an SMC trader, if stuff like this, you would want to use this as your entry, and your stop loss will want to be somewhere here. The stop loss will want to be somewhere around here. It will only take the grace of God for you not to get stopped out. But even if you don't get stopped out, it will stress your stop loss too much. Yeah. And it will if you are there, it will stress your emotion. So instead of endangering your emotion or your psychology with series of stop loss, just study this entry model and tune it till it works to your perfection. Just the same eye is where I have as my TP, and it keeps going on and on and on. Now just those two is what I mark out. But another one happened again. You can see here. This was the last loop that was broken. Although there was no break of structure, there was no clear break of structure. That's why to tap into it, they go. So it just keep coming on and on and on and on. Of course, this works, let's say 7 out of 10 times, but let's say 6 out of 10 times. But study it first. Study it to understand how it works and to be able to use it to your taste. So not only on this pair, I think I have some recent pairs that I've tried it out. On page 50. Let's see. Okay, this one was even a crazier round. This give 1:26, and it is kind of tricky actually. It is kind of very tricky. All right, so look at what we have here. This trend failed. This lower trend, it failed. We have a shift here. You understand structure? You are moving. So we have a shift here, which is also called coach. So after we saw that you want to see market trade back into the other block that created the coach, just pure SMC, FVG, engagement, everything is there, and you just go. But in cases like this, where we have, you can see these two engagements are a bit far from here. So I tend to wait for what we call engineer liquidity. So that's engineer liquidity. Yeah, that's engineer liquidity is what's formed here. Engineer liquidity is where market did not. You see, this engineer liquidity on its own is a concept that works very well Even there is a pair that if I tell you, if I mention the pair and you start using this engineer liquidity, your profitability will increase to skyrocket because it's respected a lot. And this engineer liquidity is basically when market did not have engagement close to it, then it generates one before getting to it, because for any other block to be a valid one, it needs to have an engagement. You need to sweep liquidity for you to tap into the other block very well. If there is no liquidity close to your other block or close to your POI, then you will be the liquidity. There's a saying in the market, see the liquidity or be the liquidity, and you don't want to be the liquidity. All right. So this was swept, which means this is what I'll be expecting, or I'll be looking into as my QMR entry. All right. The body of the candle that was swept, just the same thing you can see. I put my line there to mark it out, and I'm not using any other block or anything. And you can see market trading to it, very tight stop loss, and boom. This I actually had some high conviction on this. This gave almost one ratio 27. You can see, I think, hours of this. So this, you can see it works multiple times. It works very well, very well, very well, very well. Just keep refining it to your taste. So let me know if there's any question. Send it to my DM. I'll attend to them. And if you understand what I just did and you want more of it, you can drop any topic you want me to talk about in my DM. I'll answer them all. So good day and have a profitable guide of it.